Good morning, delegates. We are now going to start the session. My name is Jaime Rodriguez, and I will be your moderator.
My name is Joe Huerta, and I will be your director.
We will now be proceeding to roll call. Please answer present when you hear your name.
Okay, Speaker María Camila Rojas Herrera.
Present.
Speaker Esperanza García Cirillo.
Present.
Speaker Alfredo Esteban Peña.
Present.
Speaker Alfonso Aragón Álvarez.
Present.
Speaker Santiago Chávez.
Present.
Thank you, speakers.
Okay, we will now be starting the initial speech round. Remember, you will have 3 minutes to state your case on your position, and the first team to go will be the decision team. Your time starts now. Decision team, your time starts now.
Sorry. Thank you. Vaccination, though efficient, cannot be forced upon anyone. There are a variety of reasons behind vaccine opposition. Some people have to forego different vaccinations due to a high risk of potential allergic reactions, but most who refuse vaccines, it should be known that there is little risk. Some cite religious beliefs as the reason behind the refusal to get vaccinated. According to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, many branches of Christianity, including the Dutch Reformed congregations, Faith Healing Donating, including Church of the Firstborn, Faith Assembly, and many others, prohibit vaccination. Because this is against their religion to get vaccinated, if we force that decision, our actions would be deemed unconstitutional, seeing as we would be violating the ancient article of the human rights we are entitled to. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. It includes practice and the exercising this freedom and this religion. If you decide to ignore the right that people have to practice their religion and their freedom of speech and its practices, then let's look at the scientific part of the vaccinations. Even though vaccines have countless benefits, according to an article published in the National Library of Medicine, there has been proof that some vaccines can cause multiple diseases. For example, hepatitis B vaccination causes multiple sclerosis or microphthalmia. HIV vaccination causes diabetes mellitus. Rubella vaccination causes chronic arthritis. Measles, mumps, rubella vaccination causes gait disturbance, and thermiosal causes autism. There has been several people not want to take vaccines for the fear that some of them can cause a disease or some allergic reaction. On the other hand, there are people who do want to take those risks, and that is perfectly okay. The thing is that there is a freedom to get the vaccination. There should also be freedom to deny the vaccination. The main argument here is that vaccines would actually benefit the society we live in if we make them mandatory. But how is the right to force any medical procedure on people? What happens to human rights in a case like this? All medical professions say that science is settled, but when it comes to vaccines, it's not. New vaccines are tested every day, and the development of the industry is astounding. And though testing is thorough, it is okay to deny treatment, because at the end of the day, we don't really know what will happen in a couple of years and the side effects of vaccines. To conclude, we think that vaccines should be a choice and not a mandatory, because even though they have countless benefits, they also have its counterparts. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. You have 45 seconds remaining, and the time will be yielded to the chair. Okay, so now the obligation team will have 3 minutes to read their initial speech, and your time starts now.
Thank you, Chair. Since the creation of vaccines in the 18th century, many sicknesses that were actually affecting humanity for centuries or even millenniums have been practically eradicated. For instance, in 1953, after the obligatory vaccine campaign started by the Mexican government, smallpox and poliomyelitis, as many other sicknesses, have been controlled because of this. Lives have been saved, and as time passes through, so has science. We have now proof that, yes, some vaccines might happen to have new diseases to cause physical damage to other people. But as many medicines, everyone's DNA is different. The genetic is a factor that doesn't defend the fact that vaccines do not create sicknesses for everyone. The obligation to vaccine has been the reason why many epidemics, pandemics have been finished. For instance, the 2009 H1N1 influenza pandemic was finished because of the vaccine campaign. Also, for instance, we believe that human rights and the right to live is totally okay, but it is similar to taxation. Taxation is something nobody wants to do. But when you look at it in a critical way, you look at making a greater good, and that is what we stand for. We stand for a greater good. because not for a personal few beliefs, everyone else should be affected. Many sicknesses have been prevented and have been ended because of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. You have 1 minute and 20 seconds left. They will be yielded to a chair. We will now be moving on to the questions round. Each team will have 6 minutes to ask questions to the other team. And the first team to ask questions will be the decision team. So your 6 minutes start now. Decision team, your time has started. Speaker Esperanza.
Yes, I just have a question. I do believe that you mentioned that you believed sacrificing the human rights of people are important, like human rights are important, yet you want to sacrifice those for the greater good. Does that include like all of the human rights, or are you just talking about choice? Because at the end of the day, vaccines do lead to other human rights, like the right of choice and the right of having one's personal opinion.
Speaker Alfredo.
However, if vaccines themselves have been proven to have a healthy effect on society and other people that have in fact used them, it has saved millions, if not countless lives, and have stopped previous epidemics. The stop and disusage of vaccines have proven to resurge polio in Caribbean countries and in other nations like Malaysia. The fact that by not taking vaccines, you're endangering someone's human right to live. You're endangering someone's human right to live a healthy life. And by you endangering others around you, is it really your choice? Is it really your choice to hurt others by not taking the provocations and the preventions to not make things like that happen again? Thank you.
Speaker Camila.
There has been proof that many vaccines have caused several diseases or side effects to the ones who take them. What's your point of view on that?
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, first of all, as medicines also have some effects, some side effects, or cause other sicknesses to the ones who take them, it is not necessary for everyone. Everyone has a different genetic code. Genetics are a fact, and that is something that has been proved, because not everyone gets ill or gets something by taking a vaccine.
Speaker Esperanza.
Yes, you said some people do get sick, and that is correct, like in medicine side, but we really don't have the power to say who gets to get, like we can't put some people above others, because even though at the end of the day, I do understand that it's for the greater good, we can't sacrifice the health of a few people who will be affected by these vaccines. And I believe Speaker Alfredo said that we would be endangering someone else. We're not obstructing people from getting vaccines. And there are other treatments rather than vaccines to treat different diseases. So vaccines are really a necessity. There are other types of medication that could be taken, and still other people could get vaccines. We're not against that. Vaccines are wonderful at the end of the day, but we do believe that we should have the choice whether to take them or not.
Speaker Alfredo.
I see where you're coming from, but are we really going to sacrifice the majority for the minority? Are those few people who cannot take vaccines for the side effects that they cause, are those few people that have the side effects? They don't need to, because they've already proven to not have the medical capabilities to take those vaccines. But this doesn't mean that everyone should try to at least be obligated to have a vaccine. Countless epidemics have been stopped by this. And by not taking it, even if you're doing it not in a negative way, even if you're thinking, oh, well, I'll just not take it, there is obviously the chance of you catching a disease that have already been eradicated. Vaccines, as you said, are wonderful. And taking these are the best precaution to keeping everyone safe, everyone healthy, and everyone happy. And if we do not take vaccines, we have seen other people have resurgences in polio and other diseases that have already been eradicated. We want to keep everyone safe. And by taking vaccines, everyone is staying safe. Thank you.
Speaker Camila.
Okay, thank you. My question is, does your team really think we should obligate the person who doesn't want to take them because they are afraid of like having to take the disease? And if yes, how would you convince them to to take the vaccine.
Speaker Santiago.
Could she please just rephrase her answer a little bit?
Speaker Camila, could you please rephrase?
Yes, sure. My question is, does your team think we should obligate everyone to take the vaccine? And if yes, how would you convince them to take them?
Speaker Santiago.
So of course it would be implemented to the law. It would be something that everybody would have to do, seeing as it is essential to protect the majority of the people in order to, sorry for the construction, it is essential for everyone to vaccinate, and implementing that law would help reinforce the fact that everyone will vaccinate eventually.
Speaker Esperanza.
I do believe that Speaker Santiago mentioned implementing it to the law yet again. If we do implement forced vaccination in the law, it would violate many other laws that do that allow citizens to exercise their freedom to choose. What would you say to these people who say their rights are being violated?
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, for instance, many people do not like to pay taxes, but they still have to do it because it is in the law. And when you look critically at it, you're making a greater good. Perhaps, yes, you're entitled to your own opinion, but as well as taxation, nobody likes to pay taxes. And it is something you have to do. And that is something that will help everyone else, not only you.
Speakers, that's time for the questions round this up. Now the opposing team will have 6 minutes to ask questions, and your time starts now. Speaker Santiago.
To Esperanza Garcia, you mentioned some studies that declare that some vaccines have very consequential side effects. So I would just want to know if these studies that you researched were studies that are proven or studies that are currently ongoing and currently they're still being studied.
Speaker Esperanza.
In the short time that we had to research, I did find a study was published by, as I already mentioned, the National Library of Science of the United States. And the short research that I did on the author, like the background search, he did seem like a reliable source. And though I can't 100% assure you with the short time that we were given, I do believe that it is a reliable source and that studies were proven.
Speaker Alfredo.
To the opposing team, what is your opinion on the fact that due to this freedom of choice that people currently have of not deciding to take vaccines, they have restarted diseases like polio and others inside countries like the Caribbean, Malaysia, overall islands in Oceania? What is your opinion on that, may I ask?
Speaker Camila.
There has been other medicines and things that have replaced vaccines that are not risky for people, and it's not about liking. It's not that a person doesn't want to do it because she doesn't like it. It's because they are really afraid of that vaccine can give them other side effects or other diseases. So it's not about liking, it's about their own safety.
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, I would like to know the other team position on the fact that many communities all over the United States and Europe have taken a reschedule and have been creating new cases of possibly thought eradicated sicknesses because of the anti-vaccine movement that has been created. What is your position on that?
Speaker Esperanza.
I do believe that is a consequence of the lack of vaccination, as you said, but that doesn't mean that people have to get vaccinated. There are other treatments for these diseases, and vaccination shouldn't be one of the ones that have to be forced, because at the end of the day, how can we force any medical procedure on their patients? That is deemed unethical, and again, it violates many rights that people have, are entitled to as human beings.
Speaker Santiago.
Are there any other proven medications that have been proven better than vaccinations or more efficient than vaccinations?
Speaker Esperanza.
Although we didn't get the time to research that, I do believe that there are other treatments for many of the diseases that we have mentioned. And if you want in the in the other speech, I will mention some of the ones that are available.
Speaker Alfredo.
You mentioned that there are other medications. However, all of these other medications also have side effects included for people that are allergic or for people with a certain genetic code. If you want to use that pretext for vaccines, go ahead, but don't just counterintuitive your argument on something that has already been proven. For example, some antidepressant pills can actually have negative side effects, and other specific medications have allergic reactions in several people, as well as the fact that vaccines do not cause autism. This has already been proven and has already been researched before, and it is fake news. So what do you think people should necessarily do, since vaccines are a most efficient way of stopping the disease from spreading or stopping the disease from continuing its lifespan?
Speaker Camila.
Okay, there are other medicines that have been proved that are like supplement like a replace for vaccines. And when you have a medicine, they got all the ingredients, so you can see if they are like you are allergic of something like that. And also, oh, I forgot what I was saying. Sorry.
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, I would like to know the other team's position on the fact that these medicines do exist, but in many third world countries, sadly, only vaccines are free for everyone. So how would they support these people with no resources in order to get this because of personal reasons? Because vaccines are free. Some of these medicines you're mentioning are not.
Speaker Esperanza.
Yes, but at the end of the day, we're only talking about vaccines. And we never said that medicines didn't have side effects or that they were cheap, but they're alternative to vaccines. And if people decide not to get vaccinated, then that's their personal choice and it should be respected, because at the end of the day, we all have the right to have personal choice, to exercise it, and for it to be respected.
Speaker Santiago.
As I mentioned previously, Camila Rojas, do you know of any medications that have been proven actually more effective than vaccines? Because vaccines over time have been proven that they are very effective. And also to Speaker Esperanza, you mentioned religion in your speech. So do you believe that religion should be a factor that should be considered when taking into consideration the health for the whole world?
I'm sorry, speakers, but the time is up. You will now be having a 10-minute break so you can write your counter speeches.
Please wait to be reassigned to your breakout rooms, and when that happens, please promptly proceed and write the counter speeches.
Welcome back, speakers. We will now be proceeding to the counter speeches. You will be having 3 minutes to state your counter speech, and the first team to pass will be the decision team. So decision team, your time starts now.
We're
Once
missing
again-
one speaker from team 11, so we are just waiting for them to arrive. Once they do so, we will start with the counter speeches.
Okay, speakers, we will now be proceeding to the counter speech. You will be having 3 minutes to give your speech, and the first team will be the decision team. So decision team, your time starts now.
Wait, can you wait me for a second, please? Like, can like the other team start first?
Yes, speaker. Obligation team, you have 3 minutes and your time starts now.
You mentioned the violation of human rights by not giving the people the freedom to choose whether or not to be vaccinated. If this is the case, do you believe that the people should be leaving their homes right now during a pandemic in order to have fun during quarantine? This is risking the health of every other person, and by forcing people to stay in, you're also violating the rights of, as you mentioned, the rights of freedom to the people. However, it is the safest way to ensure the health of every other person stays intact. And you also mentioned that vaccines can lead to chronically mental illnesses like autism. However, after researching, we discovered that autism is a mental illness that cannot be developed over time with the use of a vaccine. It is a birth defect which occurs when the fetus is still in development.
Thank you, speaker. You have 1 minute and 10 seconds left. The time will be yielded to a chair. Speaker Camila, if you're ready, your time starts now.
Esperanza will read it.
Okay, Speaker Esperanza, your time starts now.
Thank you. In a study published by the U.S. National Library of Medicine, it was stated that when analyzing approximately 9,000 children regarding influenza and alternative methods of medicine, by practicing things like alternative medical systems, biologically based therapies, excluding multivitamin and vitamins from one's daily life, manipulative and body-based therapies, and mind-body therapies, the study indicated that children who had used certain alternative medicine domains were as healthy as vaccinated children. Though we do not endorse any of the aforementioned methods, the point that we want to prove is that even with a low and harmless disease like influenza, an alternative is not obsolete and non-existent. It is also stated by the opposing team that vaccines could be compared to the necessity of paying taxes. The difference here is that by paying taxes, no human right is being violated, and that taxing is necessary for functioning of society. Taxing and vaccines are not the same, though therefore, for their greater good, vaccines have a medical procedure that right now cannot be legally implemented according to the laws and the human rights that many people have. Then again, it was questioned by the opposing team if we really would put the religious beliefs of people over the right to be healthy. And the fact is that we as people are not entitled to choose what is more important to us than for the people. And just addressing the fact that it was compared to COVID-19, we will never endorse the fact that we will never endorse the fact that we should put people's lives at risk. But the thing is that here, even though not being non-vaccinated does increase the chance of getting other diseases, it does not put one's life at risk. Like immediately, a disease would need to be developed, or there are other treatments that can be handled before vaccines. So in conclusion, we do believe that forcing people to undergo vaccine treatments would be unethical, and therefore we should not do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. You have 1 minute and 20 seconds left. The time will be yielded to a chair. Okay, speakers, the chair now recommends a motion to open a moderated debate for 30 minutes. Speaker Alfredo?
Motion to open a moderated debate for 20 minutes, moderator.
The time will be 30 minutes, but that motion is in order. All of those in favor? Who seconds against? Who seconds the motion? Speaker Alfonso seconds the motion. Okay, speakers, the time for the debate starts now.
May I start since I began the motion?
Yes, Speaker.
All right, thank you. So you mentioned that religion was a factor that we had to take into consideration, but in Israel, a totalitarian Jewish state, which is still protesting at the fact of vaccines, many rabbis have made the taking of vaccines a mitzvah. It's a law in the Israel state to take these vaccines because their body is given from God. Their words, not mine. And other religious states like Christians, they don't care about these because God necessarily gave them a gift, and they're trying to respect that gift, according to many readings and from local parishes and others. Everyone is encouraging everyone to take these vaccines for the greater good of the people, for the greater good of society. And you compared that taxes are having a greater good for society and that vaccines aren't technically legal. Well, then why are doctors still recommending them? Then why are they the biggest national effort to develop a vaccine to stop COVID? Then why is it that many plagues, many diseases have been eradicated by vaccines? Sure, other medications are effective, but other medications don't stop the disease at its root. It doesn't stop the disease from happening in the first place. Well, vaccine has that specific effect. Thank you.
Speaker Alfonso, you have the floor.
Thank you. Adding up to what my partner said, yes, there might be taxation terms, but as they create a greater good, they are also good for everyone. Vaccines have proved to eradicate some illnesses that were affecting thousands of people all over the globe. For instance, as it was proved, in 1953, Mexico eliminated practically from its population poliomyelitis because of the vaccine campaign they did. 2009, they eradicated the H1N1 influenza because of the vaccine campaign they also did. And many of the studies you're proving up from the from the United States National Library of Medicine have been proved to be misguided, even by some other doctors, as the World Health Organization says it is okay, the CDC, many departments of health and human rights all over the globe have proved and have said the people to take the vaccines as they are creating a greater good. And yes, there might be some side effects, as you mentioned, but once again, it's up to the genetics of every person. Not everyone will get autism because of this.
Speaker Santiago.
Also, Espe, you mentioned that that the vaccine should be treated as something that you get once you get infected. So, and that you should try other medications first. However, don't you think that getting vaccines before is the only way to prevent this from spreading? Because if you get the vaccine after you're infected, won't you be spreading it all around before you get vaccinated, and that way you other people won't be like you're affecting the health of every other person.
Speaker Esperanza.
First of all, to Speaker Alfredo, you mentioned that everyone is endorsing these vaccines, but the fact is that they're not. You did mention a grand majority of people, which is true. People are endorsing vaccines, and you mentioned doctors endorsing vaccines, but there's a reason why doctors are endorsing them and not forcing them upon people, which at the end of the day stems from the fact that there is always a choice to take the vaccine or not. Because again, forcing the medication upon people will be unethical. And then to Speaker Alfonso, I do agree that there are many side effects, as you said, but I do believe you said that we the good is greater than the bad. But we as people are not entitled to choose what is better for people who are actually affected by these vaccines. And though it was discredited that vaccines could not cause many other like neurological diseases, they also do cause a lot of side effects, which I will be naming later if you need. But the fact is that we're only addressing one of the many side effects that vaccines have.
Speaker Camila.
In addition to what my partner said, we're not against the vaccines. We think vaccines have really made an improvement in our society. What we are trying to prove and trying to convince is that people should have the decision to decide either if they want to take it or they don't want because of their personal reasons or because of their religion or because they are afraid of the consequences it may have. So we're not against having vaccines. We are just trying to prove that the people should have decisions to decide to take it or not.
Speaker Alfredo.
The people that you're mentioning that have the negative consequences of vaccines are mostly people who have allergic reactions, if I am correct, since we have been looking through it and many studies prove that the people who are affected the most by vaccines are people who have allergic reactions toward it. And we are not endorsing that people who already know that they're going to have a negative effect towards a vaccine should take a vaccine. Because then, of course, the vaccine fails as its first job of keeping everyone safe. We're saying that if you are able to, if you have the genetic capability of keeping your fellow countrymen, your fellow men, your fellow women, your fellow friends, your fellow families safe by taking these vaccines, by deciding that overall, I have the genetic capability. My doctor has recommended these vaccines to me because they know that they are trained medical professionals and have seen these vaccines do miracles on people. Sure, there are the decisions, right? You can just say no, right? But then we have seen the effect of those people who say no. They endanger millions and thousands of lives. We have already seen the polio outbreaks in the Malaysia and in overall everywhere. In the Caribbean, it's a huge problem. People don't have the monetary funds to be able to get all of these alternatives that you are mentioning. Vaccines are one of the only medicines that are globally available. Yet you want to say that people should have the choice of endangering their fellow countrymen, of endangering their fellow patriots, of endangering their fellow people, just because they have personal preferences. Even religion doesn't stand against vaccines. The Jews, the largest group against them, have already endorsed them and made it a mitzvah. Doesn't that stand to show that even religion isn't against it? Thank you.
Speaker Esperanza.
First of all, even though some religious might endorse it, not all of it, and you as an individual cannot speak for the many of the religious communities around the world. And also in your own words, doctors are trained medical professionals, yet they are not forcing vaccines. Why is that? Because they know as trained medical professionals that they might have side effects, and that the side effects often, or sometimes, not always, of course, vaccines do have wonderful effects, but they also have very grave side effects. And the fact is that doctors only recommend them and do not force them because they're aware of this fact. And if they force it, it would be unethical. Again, because they're forcing a medical procedure upon a person who at the end of the day has the right to decline or accept that medical procedure.
Speaker Santiago.
By forcing this medical procedure, you would be helping the lives of thousands of other people. And also, Camila, you mentioned it. It is people's choice to get vaccinated or not. Even afterwards, they get infected. But if this is the case, wouldn't it also be their choice to just go around walking with, let's say, coronavirus? If there wasn't a vaccine available, wouldn't it also be their choice to just go around walking the whole town with coronavirus, coughing, infecting other people, and actually worsening the whole issue that's going on right now?
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, also adding up to what my partner said, yes, there are choices. And doctors do not take you and do not force you to take the vaccines because they need to respect your opinions. But also those choices create a greater good. Wouldn't it be easier for everyone to take the choice of doing a criminal life, doing whatever you want, whenever you want? No. These choices create a greater good and have been proved to work. So then why should you reject that choice if you're creating greater good and you're preventing something that might happen or that might cause damage to everyone else?
Speaker Esperanza.
Speaker Alfonso, you said it yourself. Doctors do not force these vaccines because they respect your opinion. Then why can't you and your team respect others' opinion of not taking the vaccine? They have an opinion because not only because of their personal preference, they might, and that is valid. And also to Speaker Santiago, both Camila and I will never endorse putting people's life in danger by going outside in COVID. But the fact is that at the end of the day, unless it's a law prohibited by the state or the country, the people at the end of the day can still do whatever they want. So even though we do not endorse this decision, it's something that is happening and that could happen according to each place you live in. So the fact that I want to prove here is that even though it is wrong, at the end of the day, it is a choice if it's not mandated by law.
Speaker Camila.
Okay, so Alfredo Peña, you can't really control or know how it will react on you. Even if your doctor recommends it to you, you won't be able to know, or he won't be able to know what reaction would be on you. And also, if we're talking about health and security, a person can get another disease by having a vaccine and it's proved. And that's why people have the right and the right to decide if either if they want to take it or not. And even that's why a doctor is recommended to you. He's not like obligating to you. Like it's like even the doctors are like aware that this is a decision. Like you have the right or not.
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, first of all, Esperanza, yes, doctors have to respect your choice, but because it is current law that you cannot force someone to do something you want against them. But instead, if you put it as a law as taxation, people would have to take vaccines and you would eradicate many problems because of that. Yes, Camila, there can be many diseases that come from vaccines, but so it is why someone with HIV cannot say, oh, well, I don't want to take a treatment. I want to die before, and goes around the city and infects other people. That is something that will not be helpful for everyone else. Yes, the person with HIV is entitled to its own opinion, and it's okay. But he doesn't have to harm everybody else or change everybody else's life because of his own choice.
Speaker Alfredo.
As my already partner and Alfonso already mentioned, doctors are forced to give you the choice of taking this vaccine or not, because it is granted by the state that everyone who has the decision of not wanting to take this vaccine not take it. However, if you look at the positive effects of vaccines and the negative effects of the people opposing the movement, you'd be seeing the 99% against the 100%, against the 1%. You'd be seeing the majority versus the minority that is causing more damage than the majority. You're seeing these small amounts of people who have allergic reactions, and you're telling me that doctors can't recognize it through years of work? Of course they can. Doctors are trained medical professionals. You said it yourselves. They have worked in the field for many years. They have seen the effects of vaccines. They know that it is good for you, that it is good. And if you have an allergic reaction, they will probably not recommend it to you because they are doctors. They kill for your health. If you have an allergic reaction, don't take the vaccine. Don't. That is the worst case scenario. But that's because you're obligated to. That's because of your personal reasons that you're obligated to not take that vaccine. It's not because you don't want to. It's not because you don't want to be healthy. It's not because you don't want to endanger your other people. It's because your body itself cannot handle the vaccine. And this is the 1% against the 99%. So should the 1% cause 50% of the damage to the 99%? Thank you.
Speaker Esperanza.
First of all, to address Speaker Alfonso, you said it yourself. It's a current law that we cannot force people to take the vaccine. Then why should we change it? It is a law because of some reason, right? And it's not outdated. It's not obsolete because at the end of the day, it mandates that if it's not by law, then it should be a choice because at the end of the day, it is. And Speaker Alfredo, you said it yourself. Some people don't take that vaccine because of personal reasons, because their body can't take it. But there are some factors that people can control. At the end of the day, we say religion. You said that sometimes religion endorses the vaccines, but there are other religions that don't. And at the end of the day, it's not our place to force people who respect and follow that decisions, because at the end of the day, it's a human right. And if we force people to disrespect that religion and not go against it, we are infringing many different laws and rights that many people have. And I do understand your concern that 1% can cause damage to that 99%. But at the end of the day, who are we to prioritize that 99% over that 1%? We have no right or entitlement to do so.
Speaker Santiago.
To answer this question, there are also many treatments for the side effects you mentioned that that could be caused by some vaccines. However, some like the autism are not causable, like those are not consequences from a vaccine. And also you say that we cannot risk the 1% over the 99%. However, by giving that 1% the opportunity to choose, they could go around spreading diseases and making a whole nother problem again. Once you solve that once you solve a problem, that 1% could go around spreading it to everyone, which would really be an issue. So isn't it the same to force everyone to take the vaccine and to just let the people be and let them go around infecting everyone?
Speaker Camila.
To first say, you said that if you know it's gonna have an allergic reaction, not like then don't take it. But how can you know if it's gonna make a reaction. That's what, like, an allergic reaction. That's what people are afraid of, because they really don't know if there's gonna happen something like to them. They really don't know if they're gonna have like an allergic reaction. They really don't know if they can have another disease. Like, that's also part of their rights to decide if they wanted not to, because it could take like they can have several side effects, or like just take it because they want. There are some people who handle the risks and like they can take the vaccine and all right, but there's people who don't want because they have read the news, or they really don't feel like secure having the vaccines. So we think we cannot obligate people to have the to take the vaccine, because at the end of the day that wouldn't work, because the people who don't want to, they wouldn't do it. So we can't obligate people to do it, because even if we do, they're not going to do it. They're not.
Speaker Alfredo.
How would we know? Tests, research, centuries of knowledge beforehand. Just looking at the overall patient and analyzing symptoms. There are doctors, their job is to find out these allergic reactions, these medications, so they can improve everyone's quality of life, everyone's lifestyle. And as for religion, it's not religion that's the problem. Because if you're head of state, if you're head of religion, if many religious figures in your community have already endorsed it, then religion is not the problem, it's you. And that problem itself is misinformation and miseducation. It's not because they're afraid of it, because if they were afraid of it, they would know the side effects. They would understand the side effects, and they wouldn't take it because they know that they'll get those side effects. And those side effects as ascertained to a certain amount of people, to a certain group. Who says that they're part of the group? They have to consult their doctors, their medical professionals first, then check if they're part of that group. If they're part of the group, they're perfectly justified not to, because they're hurting themselves. But you are the 99%. There is the chance that you're the 99%, not the 1%. There's a reason that you're a majority and not the minority.
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, first of all, I know to what my partner said. Yes, it is something that you have to respect, everyone's opinion, and that 1% is valuable. But if you look at statistically and critically at it, you look at 1% then turns to 15% and then turns into a 20%, and it grows and grows and grows. And then you're taking an account that many outbreaks have happened because of this kind of thinking. Also, in many countries where forced immunization was obligatory, yes, there might be a chance that you were not in favor of that. But you created a greater good, because, for instance, during the 70s and 80s, many sicknesses and illnesses were eradicated thanks to this. And what happens after these governments eradicate this kind of forced immunizations? Well, then you have outbreaks, you have pandemics, you have epidemics. So you need to look at the statistics. Thank you.
Speaker Esperanza.
First of all, to address a point made by Speaker Santiago, I never said that we should prioritize the 1% over that 99%, or that we should prioritize that 99% over the 1%. Because at the end of the day, as a human being, I'm not entitled to say who is more important and who isn't. Because even though there's, as you said, the majority over the minority, we can't decide who is more important. And then to address a comment that Speaker Alfredo said, you said that people who can't take the vaccine, there will be countless research to avoid people who are allergic or to have reactions toward that vaccine. There's countless research doctors that would be in charge of that. But going to a point you said before, some communities in some places do not have the same resources that we do in this specific community or this place. Then again, how could you ensure that people will not have negative side effects to these vaccines if you don't have the resources or the knowledge to say so? This is why people opt to stay safe and not take the vaccine, other than take the vaccine without any knowledge, because at the end of the day, it's misinformation or the lack of education that stops them from doing it. And we can't force these people to risk their lives, even because they know nothing about this vaccine, by taking it. We can't make it legal to force people to take these vaccines, because at the end of the day, some people don't have the information to say yes or no.
Speaker Alfredo.
Your point is valid, and I agree that misinformation is the prime reason why people don't take vaccines. But look at all the countries that have made it obligatory during times of crisis. Mexico, Malaysia, the Cubans, many countries, the United States during the Spanish flu, Spain, all of these people have made it obligatory because of the fact that it has good and positive effects. And there will be the 1% because their lives are just as valuable as the 99%. But that doesn't mean that the 1%, the people who can take it shouldn't take it. The people who can take it must take it to protect the 1%. The 1% are probably the people with the lower immune systems, the people with the allergic reactions, the people who have the disabilities and they cannot take these vaccines because their immune systems are low or because their genetics are not as strong as other people's. Is it the job of everyone to protect that 1% by taking these vaccines, by preventing the spread of diseases, by preventing the spread of plagues? Isn't it? You've mentioned human rights quite many times. And you know what else is a human right? Life. Life and safety is a human right. And the people who don't take these vaccines but can have caused polio pandemics, have caused many diseases in New York, have caused plagues. Everyone deserves to live a happy and healthy life. And by not taking the vaccine, you're endangering everyone that has. So please, taking the vaccine should be obligatory because living is obligatory, because living is a human right. Thank you.
Speaker Santiago.
Also, to add on to what Alfredo said, you could also argue that it is impossible to know who consists of that 1% and who is part of the 99% who won't have allergic reactions. However, it is possible to treat allergic reactions. It is possible to treat many of the side effects that a vaccine can have. So isn't it worth the risk to vaccinate everyone and know that there's treatments for the side effects that it could have, and there's actually a very positive outcome for whatever side effect it could have? It could be treated, and you could come out perfectly fine with the positive impacts of the vaccination you just took.
Speaker Camila.
Yes. Life and healthy is a human right. We are in agree with that. But by forcing vaccines, we are also harming other people because we don't know the side effects and consequences.
Speaker Alfredo.
We know the side effects and consequences, and we know how to treat those side effects and consequences. I don't understand what you're saying because constantly you're referring to the people that are in danger of this. Yet we have mentioned several times that these people do not have to take the vaccines if they are being damaged by them. And if they do take them to prevent the further spread of a disease or the further spread and contagion of themselves, then we can treat those side effects and overall have a healthy human being who was able to vaccinate himself. These people, we can identify them, we can help them, and we don't necessarily need vaccines, but for those people that don't need them. There's also those people in the 1% that are misinformed, miseducated, are spreading false information, and are simply not doing their job as compatriots and friends and familiars to give you the proper education, the proper medication that you require. Vaccines are critical to the safety of the globe. They're critical to the safety of the global medical community. And by refusing these, we have seen the effects. I have mentioned thousands of times over the course of the debate, the effects that they have had on unprepared countries. The fact that these people that do not take them have caused pandemics, epidemics, plagues, polio, so many things, guinea worm, which had already been eradicated. Polio had been eradicated globally, and people are returning to it because they decide not to take these vaccines. Is it really your decision to harm others? Is it really your decision to sacrifice others just because you personally couldn't take the guilt of having to vaccinate yourself, of having to take that risk, take that chance, or infecting other people with diseases that you might get?
Speaker Esperanza.
You said it yourself, Speaker, choice. Can we really decide to put other people's lives in danger just for the commodity of not taking the vaccine? The fact that you said yourself, it's not always a commodity. There's times and there's places that we can't get the vaccine because of personal reasons or other reasons. And if I, as an individual, cannot force other people not to take the vaccine, then why should you, as an individual, force people to take the vaccine? I do understand that they have overwhelming positive effects, but at the end of the day, that's not always the case. And that's just why I want to understand, why don't you believe that it's possible for it to make a choice if the majority of people do take vaccines? Why do you believe that it's possible for the small percentage of people that do not take the vaccine to take them anyways? I do understand that you said that they may cause plagues or other widespread diseases, but at the end of the day, that's just a very low amount of times that it has happened in the past few years with other alternative medicinal methods and alternatives to vaccines.
Speaker Camila.
In addition of my partner said, also what would happen if a person who doesn't have the resources to treat, like for example, a person who doesn't have the resources go and gets a vaccine. That person is aware of all the risks and take it. But what would happen if he has the side effects or like catches a diseases that vaccine could have? What like he or she won't have the resources, the choice of treat like the side effects that vaccine costs her because she doesn't have money, or we don't know. But like we are putting like others' life also in risk because we don't know if he can treat it, like he can treat the disease that the vaccine caused him. We don't know. So like we also think it's not right to force people to take the vaccine if they really think it could cause a disease. We cannot force it. We're like humans, and we're no one to tell another person what to do or what not to do.
Speaker Alfonso.
Well, first of all, the countries you're referring to that do not have access to these vaccines actually do, because out of every country, 172 have free and actual vaccines that are being approved by the World Health Organization, their own departments of health. And this issue is not about third world, because those countries have the less population against vaccination. Actually, this is a first world country where universal healthcare, good healthcare doesn't allow people to just go and say, I don't want a vaccine. I just want to go around and do whatever I want. As this is not a culture of thinking about the others. It's a culture of thinking about only yourself. If vaccines are available and you can get them to help everyone else, why shouldn't you do it? Especially if you're living in a first world country where the outbreaks have been massive.
Speaker Alfredo.
Esperanza, you mentioned previously that these are isolated cases, but no, we have constant cases of people causing new outbreaks, causing new diseases. People who don't take these vaccines are constantly in danger of their immune systems being attacked by other diseases. You're endangering the person who doesn't take it themselves. As Alfonso said, it's a first world country problem because those people in third world countries have learned to appreciate that the little that they have, the little that the government gets them, are vaccines. The few things that the medical department is affordable and can give you is health. And they appreciate that and they take it. And they understand that there are risks, but very small risks, and they take it anyway. And they ensure the safety of their country. They ensure the safety of the populace of the globe by taking these vaccines. This is a first world country problem. This is a problem of the individual, a problem of those who do not care enough to guarantee the safety of others, a problem of those who do not care enough to think about the bigger picture. Who are we to tell other people what to do, you say, Camila? Well, what about the government? What about the law? What about totalitarian states? All of those are violating people's rights to choose. All of those are censoring the media. All of those are committing crimes against humanity most of the time. What about African dictatorships? Well, they're obviously taking human lives every day, but we haven't done anything about it. We need to focus on vaccines because these are the one thing that if we educate everyone enough, we can cause a global change. We can cause global health. But everyone has to be on board. Everyone has to understand that the risks that they can take can be cured, that the risks that they can take can be helped with. At the end of the day, as you've mentioned before, Esperanza, it's about the decision. It's about the choice. And would you rather take the choice of endangering hundreds, or would you rather take the choice of endangering yourself? Thank you.
Speaker Esperanza.
You said it yourself, Speaker, it's a matter of choice, and I can't choose to prioritize or whether to save the thousands of lives, and neither can you. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't depend on you or that doesn't depend on me. That depends on each individual because right now it is not mandated by law. And because it is not mandated by law, there is a reason behind it. And the fact is that not everyone has to take the vaccines because there's many factors that affect a person and their lives, which at the end of the day, we cannot completely discredit, which is why vaccines are mandatory and they should stay that way. There should not be a law and they should not be mandatory.
Speakers, the time for the debate is up. You now have two options. You can either make a motion to extend it for 10 minutes, or we can simply move on to the presidential debate. So the floor is open, delegates. Are there any motions? Seeing none, we will be moving on to the presidential debate. Okay, so in this round, we will be asking you questions, either general, as a team, or personal, and you will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The first question goes to the decision team, and it is, should people have the opportunity to decide if they want to be vaccinated or not? Speaker Camila?
Yes, they should have the decision because they should. People are scared that these vaccines could have side effects, and they are in their all the right to decide if they either want to take it or not. So yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask the same question to the obligation team. Should people have the opportunity to decide if they want to be vaccinated or not? Speaker Alfredo?
No, but the root of many problems is ignorance and misinformation and miseducation. And this is a problem for the people who do not want to take vaccines either. Now, millions of people in Mexico are taking vaccines every day. Millions of people across the globe are taking vaccines every day just to keep and stay safe and keep the public safe. It's a collective concept, because if the one person doesn't do it, then he affects everyone around him. He affects everyone around him in worse ways than he can imagine. He can make everyone sick. He can make everyone unhealthy. He can kill people just because of ignorance. And I believe that everyone should have the right to live. Everyone should have the right to have a healthy life and not die because some fool out there thought that vaccines would cause him autism, which has already been proven false. Some fool out there thought that vaccines would kill him, which is not true. I believe that vaccines are necessary in order to make a global change and to improve global healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. My next question goes to the decision team, and it is, do the benefits of vaccines outweigh the risks, and why?
I personally believe they do, but at the end of the day, that is not up to me to decide. They do overwhelm the side effects, but at the end of the day, for a certain group of people, they don't. And that goes against their beliefs and the fact that they just can't take the vaccine. And as I believe Alfredo and Alfonso and both Santiago mentioned, the overwhelming benefits, we can't ignore the amount of people that are actually, like, the vaccine is negative for, because we are not entitled to make that decision or that call.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to pose the same question to the obligation team. Do the benefits of vaccines outweigh the risks, and why? Speaker Alfonso?
Well, thank you. If vaccines are proved to be healthy, if they have proved to be good for people, if they have proved that they can create a great change all over the globe, then yes, vaccine should be obligatory for everyone. The risks are very low, as they are practically isolated. There are isolated cases because of everyone's genetic code. And usually the people who cannot take these vaccines have very rare genetic codes. But there is also a choice for them, because the formula can be changed depending on everyone's genetic code. For instance, someone who has heart problems will not be affected if he takes certain vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to the team questions. My first two questions are for the obligation team, and I would like to ask you, is forcing the use of vaccines a violation of people's freedom? Speaker Alfredo?
No, we are guaranteeing their safety. We're guaranteeing their freedom to live, their freedom to have a healthy life. We're guaranteeing their freedom to cooperate with their friends, with their families. We are guaranteeing the freedom of the safety of the people. We are guaranteeing the freedom of public health. Endangering people is not a freedom. Not taking vaccines is not a freedom. It's a choice that hurts other people. It's a choice that's a negative choice. And when you have to choose the good or the bad, obviously you're going to choose the good. Because something that's bad is never free. Something that is bad for the health of the people, something that is bad for the overall community, is something that you shouldn't be proud of. It's not something that's freedom. You can't call the hurting of thousands of people freedom. You can't call polio plagues freedom. You can't call that a human right just to be able to say no and hurt thousands of people. You can't call that a human right. I call that massacre. I call that genocide. But I don't know about you.
Thank you. My next question goes to the same team, and it is, if vaccines are so effective, then why do negative allergic reactions sometimes occur? Speaker Alfonso?
Well, as it was previously mentioned, and many times during this debate, it depends on everyone's genetic code. Usually, there is a large majority of people who do not suffer any kind of a illness or secondary effect because of this. Yes, there might be some little effects, but they are so tiny and practically unnoticeable. So that's why there it is. Those minorities who have that problem are not harmed. They are harmed, yes. But those minorities do not affect and have some other formulas or some other treatments as a choice. For instance, there are many vaccines depending on every person's genetic code and known illnesses.
Thank you. I now have some questions for the decision team, and the first one is, how do you respond to the overwhelming scientific evidence that says vaccines are good for people? Speaker Esperanza?
Oh, we never stated that vaccines weren't good for people. We did state that vaccines have negative consequence for a limited amount of people or a selected amount of people, but we never did oppose vaccines. The only thing we're advocating for is that vaccines are a choice, not that they're bad or that they are good.
Thank you. As a follow-up, do you consider personal freedom is more important than public safety? If so, why? Speaker Camila?
We think it's also a part of the other's healthy, the person's healthy because the person's health, because a person has to consider what if he can handle like the side effects and all that. And it's not about freedom, it's about them being aware of that they can be sick or get bad side effects.
Thank you. We will now move on to the personal round of questions. The first one is for Speaker Alfredo, and I wanted to ask you, ignoring the health effects of vaccines, how do you argue in favor of forcing vaccination, even though it might infringe on the religious and constitutional rights of individuals?
Well, that's a simple question. I can already eliminate religion because of the three major religions in the world: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Many of these religious leaders, in fact, the Pope, even rabbis not in Islam, in Judaism, and other religious leaders in the Muslim world have already advocated for vaccines. Have already chosen that vaccines are the right answer to public health crises. And as for the infringement of people's freedom, I don't think you should consider hurting other people a freedom. I don't think you should be considering hurting the majority just because you decide not to take a risk. Sometimes there are risks in life that are worth taking. And these risks are so minute in this specific scenario. That's not an infringement on your freedom. It's an infringement on others' freedom to not take the vaccine. You're already hurting other people by default by not taking this. You're taking the chance that you catch maybe polio or maybe some unknown disease from 100 years ago, and you absolutely spread it to your local community. Imagine hurting your friends, your family, your compatriots, just because you decided that you were too scared to save everyone. You're too scared to take a tiny needle and save your local community and keep everyone safe just because you were scared.
Thank you, Speaker. I have a question for Speaker Alfonso. In our context, should people be forced to vaccinate for the flu, even when threatened by a different illness, which is COVID-19, that might drastically increase the severity of the side effects?
Well, I believe people should be vaccinating against the flu because, for instance, the flu combined with the COVID-19 could cause a terrible loss of people, as two very severe, depending on the cases, two very severe respiratory illnesses could cause thousands, not to say millions of deaths all over the world. So yes, perhaps the government should take control of this by sending people to everyone's houses or local community centers to give this free campaign vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker Santiago Chavez, the last question for your team goes to you. And I wanted to ask you, what is your stance on the herd immunity theory proposed by many anti-vaxxers? Is it a valid argument for the decrease in vaccination that has been caused by those that come from the decision perspective? In case you don't know, herd immunity basically proposes that if enough people get vaccinated, then the population will be safe from disease, even though some of them might not have vaccinated.
So you're asking if the herd immunity has led to less people vaccinating?
What I want to ask is, what is your stance on the theory?
Okay. I believe that the herd vaccination is very useful because it provides the immunity to most of the people and helps everyone obviously not have the disease and not spread it on forward. So I do believe that this will lead to positive results. And as for the decrease in people vaccinating right now, I think you mentioned that I personally believe that is due to people not needing it as much. However, it is needed because they can continue passing it forward to other people who have not been vaccinated just yet.
Thank you, Speaker. We are now moving on to the personal questions for the decision team. The first one goes to Speaker Camila. And the question is, the speaker mentioned how you never know what side effects might come from medications such as vaccines. Does this mean that their extensive research should be disregarded based on the possibility of a negative side effect?
Can you restate your question, please?
Of course. You mentioned that you never know what side effects can come from medications such as vaccines. So does this mean that the extensive research of scientists should be disregarded based on the possibility of a negative side effect?
No, they shouldn't be disregarded, but they should be considered.
Thank you. My last question goes to Speaker Esperanza, and I wanted to ask you, do you believe that personal rights should be held above the overall benefit to society that would come from forced vaccination? Why?
I do believe that like the right to choose or the right to one's personal belief is very important, but at the end of the day, it is not up to me what is more important than the other, which I do believe it should be a choice, because just like it is not my choice to say what is more important, it is not the opposition's team's choice to say what is more important. So at the end of the day, if we want to be neutral and we want to be fair to both sides of the argument, we can't decide, and neither can they.
Thank you, Speaker. With that, we conclude the presidential debate. You will now have a 10-minute break so that you can focus on writing your resolution speeches.
It still haven't shown me like the thing for joining.
That will be fixed shortly. Thanks for waiting.
Welcome back, speakers. We will just wait for one more speaker. Oh, she's here now. So we will now be starting with the resolution speech round. Each team will have 3 minutes to state their new position and explain why they have it. So the first team to read their resolution speech will be the obligation team, and your time starts now.
Over the course of history, medication has been a scarce resource. But for the first time in human history, we are finally able to distribute something that would cause global health, something that would increase the overall global situation. And for that reason, I believe that vaccination is obligatory. Because of that 1% that we were speaking of early in the debate, 50% of those are just misinformed people, people who are scared, people who have fear of the unknown. By not informing themselves, they are not realizing of the thing that they're missing out on, of the dangers of not taking a vaccine. So my team and not myself have not changed our position since the beginning. We believe that the vaccination of people should be obligatory, and that those few that cannot take it should be able to get other genetic code or other vaccines that apply to their situation. We can always adapt and overcome these hurdles, but it's important that we prioritize public health over personal opinion, over personal misinformation, over personal lies that they have told themselves. So overall, our team would just like to say that we thank the moderator and the chair and the opposing team for giving us our insight and for providing us with a wonderful debate. But our position has not changed, and we still believe the obligation is required in order to achieve global healthcare and to achieve a unified globe where vaccination is an effective and useful method of preventing disease and plagues in the future.
Thank you, speaker. You have 1 minute and 20 seconds left. They will be yielded to a chair. Okay, so now the decision team will have 3 minutes to state their position, and your time starts now.
Yes. Regarding the issue if vaccines should be maintained in law, we remain with our original position. Vaccines are a medical position that we can't force people if we acknowledge the many rights that an individual is entitled to, as we should. Our position did not change because throughout the course of the debate, many of the facts that the opposing team presented were valid, and we do understand and agree with some of the things mentioned. They failed to acknowledge the many infringements of human rights and justified it as being better for the greater good. As individuals, we have no entitled to pick and choose what rights we want to respect and which ones we want to neglect because they accommodate the arguments of forced vaccines. How is it right to force any medical procedure on people? What happens to human rights in a case like this? As the other team said, we must focus on the greater good, but who are we to prioritize what is important to our personal agenda on a global level? Medication is always a choice. Vaccines are a choice, and the freedom to choose is a right. Thank you.
Thank you, speaker. You have 1 minute and 50 seconds left. The time will be yielded to a chair automatically. And with that, we end the debate. Thanks for coming and good luck in your next session. You are dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was fun debating with you. Have a nice day.